Have you ever searched for an affordable home? Maybe a starter home, a condo, a townhouse, something under $250,000. And notice something weird? Listing after listing says 55 plus community, or active adult community, or age restricted. And you scroll past thinking, okay, fine, that one's not for me. But then the next one says the same thing, and the next one, and at some point you start to wonder, wait, is every affordable home in this area reserved for people over 55? The answer, at least partially, is yes. And the reason why is a law most people have never heard of, a housing system designed to benefit one generation, and an uncomfortable truth about who this country decided actually deserves a shot at building wealth through home ownership. Let me show you something that might make your blood boil a little bit. Baby boomers, people born between 1946 and 1964, currently own 51.7% of all the wealth in America. They also control nearly $19 trillion in housing wealth. That's roughly 40% of all real estate in the entire country. Millennials? They have about 9.8% of the nation's wealth, and they own less than 2/3 of the real estate that boomers did when they were the same age. Here's where it gets interesting. Despite already owning almost half of everything, boomers are now the largest group of home buyers. In 2024, they made up 42% of all home purchases. Millennials dropped to 29%. And get this, there were more home buyers aged 70 and older than there were buyers under 35. Half of buyers over 70 are purchasing homes entirely with cash. They're not competing for mortgages. They're not affected by interest rates. They're just writing checks. But the part nobody talks about is what happened with affordable home ownership specifically. Because while younger generations were being told to stop buying coffee and pull themselves up by their bootstraps, an entire system of affordable homes was being built that legally excludes them from buying. In 1995, President Bill Clinton signed the Housing for Older Persons Act into law. This law amended the Fair Housing Act to create a specific exemption for something called 55-plus communities. Now, normally, the Fair Housing Act prevents housing discrimination based on things like race, religion, and familial status. That last one means you can't refuse to sell to someone just because they have kids or because they're young. But the Housing for Older Persons Act carved out an exception. It said that if a housing community designates itself as 55 plus and maintains at least 80% occupancy by people 55 or older, they can legally turn away anyone younger. They can refuse to sell you a home specifically because of your age. And here's the kicker. The original version of this law required these communities to provide significant facilities and services designed for elderly people. Things like handrails, emergency response systems, accessible design, that kind of thing. But developers complained that was too expensive, so the 1995 update removed that requirement entirely. Now, a developer can build a completely standard subdivision of a single-family homes, slap a 55-plus label on it, and suddenly they're exempt from fair housing protections. No special accommodations required, no accessibility features, just an age gate. And if you're 30 years old and finally saved enough for a down payment on a starter home, legally, you can be told no. You cannot buy this house. So why would developers specifically choose to build homes for the 55-plus market instead of everyone else? Well, follow the money. First, there's the LIHTC program, that stands for Low Income Housing Tax Credit. It's the largest affordable housing financing program in the country, responsible for about 90% of all new affordable housing built in America. And yes, this includes ownership units, not just rentals. The program itself isn't specifically for seniors, but here's what the data shows. About 16% of LIHTC units are explicitly designated for senior living. And when you look at who actually lives in all LIHTC housing, about 30% of residents are 62 or older. Why are developers leaning towards senior housing? Because states give them extra points in the application process for it. 38 states award bonus points to developers who promise to restrict their new affordable housing to older adults. 7 states have specific set-asides just for senior housing. More points means a better chance of getting approved. Getting approved means getting the tax credits. Getting the tax credits means making money. But there's another reason developers love 55-plus communities, and it has to do with NIMBYs, or not in my backyard. It's when existing homeowners fight against new housing being built near them. And one of the biggest fears NIMBYs have is that new homes will mean more kids in schools, more traffic from families, and more strain on local services. So 55-plus housing eliminates that argument completely. No kids means no impact on schools. Seniors typically drive less. They're seen as quieter neighbors. Local governments face dramatically less community opposition when developers propose age-restricted housing. Some municipalities even reduce or waive impact fees for 55-plus developments because there's no burden on the school system. So, from a developer's perspective, building a 55-plus housing unit is easier to get approved, easier to finance, and faces less community resistance. Meanwhile, that starter home you've been saving for, good luck getting that approved in half these towns. Here's what this actually means for your financial future. Home ownership isn't just about having a place to live. For 60% of middle-class Americans, their home is the bulk of their wealth. It's the primary vehicle for building generational wealth in this country. When you pay rent, that money is gone. When you pay a mortgage, you're building equity. You're accumulating an asset that historically appreciates. You're creating something you can pass down or leverage later in life. The median age of a home buyer in 1992 was 28 years old. In 2024, it was 56. The median home price is now nearly 6 times the median income. In 1990, it was 2 times the income. If home prices had just kept pace with inflation since the 1960s, the median home would cost about $177,000 today. Instead, it's over $500,000. 2/3 of boomers bought their first home for less than $100,000. More than a third paid $50,000 or less, and 75% of them were earning under $50,000 a year when they did it. Today, you need roughly $120,000 in household income just to qualify for the median home. And the homes that might actually be affordable? A massive chunk of them are in communities that will legally refuse to sell to you because you were born after 1969. This isn't just about finding a place to live. This is about being locked out of the primary wealth-building mechanism that made the middle class possible. And here's the thing that should really make you angry. That silver tsunami everyone keeps talking about, the idea that boomers will eventually die off and flood the market with homes, it's not coming. 78% of Americans over 60 say they want to stay in their current home forever, and they're not downsizing. They're not moving to those 55-plus communities that they built. They're staying put in the family homes that younger families desperately need. NAR economists have specifically told younger generations to stop waiting for it. The wealth transfer isn't happening the way people hoped. And when boomers do buy new homes, they're buying in those 55-plus communities with cash competing with each other for the affordable inventory that younger buyers can't even access. Meanwhile, 42% of younger Americans say they're not even financially prepared to maintain a home if they inherited one from their parents. Rising property taxes, maintenance costs, and outstanding mortgages mean that even inheritance isn't the path forward it used to be. The ladder has been pulled up, and they put a 55-plus only sign on it. Here's what makes this genuinely infuriating. The housing crisis isn't some mysterious force of nature. It's the result of policy choices. We chose to create legal exemptions that allow age discrimination in home sales. We chose to structure tax incentive programs in ways that favor senior housing development. We chose to let communities that already own 40% of all real estate also have dedicated pipelines to the limited affordable housing we build. And then we tell younger generations that the problem is avocado toast. Look, I'm not saying we should take homes away from seniors. Everyone deserves stable housing. But when you structure an entire system around the needs of one demographic and legally exclude another demographic from buying, you don't get to act surprised when that excluded group can't build wealth. The law that created 55-plus exemptions was passed in 1995. Millennials were between 1 and 14 years old at the time. They weren't consulted, they weren't represented, they weren't even old enough to vote. And now they're being told that the reason they can't afford a starter home is personal failure. So the next time you're searching for a home you can actually afford and see a 55-plus community on the one listing in your price range, I want you to remember this. It's not that affordable homes don't exist. It's that we built an entire system that reserves a huge portion of them for people who statistically are already the wealthiest generation in American history. The generation that bought their first homes for 50 grand. The generation that owns half of everything. The generation paying cash while you're getting outbid. And they passed a law that makes it legal to tell you that you cannot buy this home. If that makes you angry, good, it should, because nothing changes until enough people realize the game is rigged and start demanding different rules. The goal isn't to take anything from anyone, it's to ask a simple question. Why does the generation that already owns 40% of American real estate also get legal priority on the affordable homes being built today? Why is it legal to discriminate against you for being young when it's illegal to discriminate against them for being old?